Pan for her statement, and I now give the floor to the Russian Federation.
Thank you, President. We are grateful to the United Arab Emirates for having organized the meeting on this very important issue, the value of human fraternity and the protection and promotion of peace. We thank the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Guterres, the Grand Imam Al-Azhar Al-Sharif, Archbishop Paul Richard Gallagher, and Madam Latifa bin Zayton for their comprehensive briefings. Discussion of this issue during our difficult times allows us to shed light on the importance of the value of human fraternity, tolerance, the culture of peace, and peaceful coexistence amongst various peoples. This also enables us to recall the sources and the fundamental pillars of organization which are enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations. Today, more than ever before, member states of the United Nations are called upon to prove that they are willing to embrace tolerance and live in peace alongside one another as good neighbors, as well as to develop international cooperation, including geared towards resolving international economic, social, cultural, and humanitarian issues. It is indeed the principles of the Charter of the United Nations which should lie at the heart of a genuinely multipolar order which reflects the values of human fraternity. Today's issue is reflected, and theme is reflected in Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, according to which, I quote, "All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood." We fully embrace this important principle. We firmly believe that diversity of tradition and the specificity of historical development, everything that underpins the values of human fraternity, should become factors for unifying the international community. Regardless of confrontation or contradictions that may arise among states, a reliable basis for dialogue and partnership could be found in human values that are shared by all major world religions and rooted in cultural historic traditions. Madam President, the Russian Federation is a multi-ethnic and multi-confessional state. As such, we have been endeavoring to advance dialogue and partnership among representatives of various cultures, religions, and civilizations, and we consistently embrace this policy at regional and international organizations. Pride of place in international cooperation in this context is held by the United Nations and its Alliance of Civilizations, which plays a leading role in the establishment of full-fledged cross-civilizational dialogue geared towards achievement of harmony among representatives of various religions, faiths, and cultures. We trust that the United Nations Alliance of Civilizations will continue its constructive efforts to facilitate the inculcation of a spirit of peace and global citizenship for strengthening an understanding of people, especially an understanding for young people about the values of peace, tolerance, openness, mutual respect, which are of important significance for shaping a culture of peace. Madam President, we are deeply alarmed about growing instances of discrimination, intolerance, extremism on ethnic or other grounds, including manifestations of intolerance, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, Christianophobia, first and foremost in countries of Europe. Digital platforms, social networks enjoy impunity. They incite disinformation, hate speech, and they show contempt for religious and spiritual values and representatives of various faiths. They provide platforms for extremists, undermining the spirit of tolerance and respect for diversity. One of the egregious manifestations of intolerance is Russophobia, which we spoke about during a specially organized Security Council meeting held on 14 March. We wish to draw particular attention to the flagrant violations of human and constitutional rights of followers of canonical orthodoxy in Ukraine. This is an egregious violation, and this is taking place with the tacit consent of the sponsors of the Kiev regime. On the basis of discriminatory legislation, there continue to be seizures of Ukrainian Orthodox church sites and the forced, unlawful liquidation of their communities. Such measures are compounded by violence against worshippers, growing instances of arson and vandalism of the churches. The hierarchy and followers of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church endure discrimination, physical, and of several months, we have borne witness to devoted people upholding and defending the Kiev Pechersk Lavra, that is the monastery of the caves, valiantly countering extremism and the pressure from the Kiev authorities. From the Ukrainian media outlets, there's an unbridled smear campaign against the Ukrainian Orthodox Church with a call for full prohibition on its activity. Against this backdrop, what is cynical is the absence of any appropriate reaction from international human rights structures to violence and persecution of followers, as well as instances of destruction and seizure of religious sites. And we drew in the attention of the international community to this situation, convened a special Security Council meeting on persecution of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church on the 17th of January. We also see that with the egging on of the leaders of the Kiev regime, there is growing Islamophobia in the country. The protection of religious sanctuaries, including mosques, synagogues, churches, represents the obligation the protection of these religious sanctuaries is the obligation of states guaranteed under international law, national legislation, religious and human moral values. Examples of persecution of the followers on religious grounds, as well as persecution on the basis of national, ethnic, and language affiliation are many. We believe that the followers of traditional global regions can and should proactively be involved in efforts to support peace and resolve armed conflict. We highly value the initiatives of religious leaders geared towards strengthening and developing interfaith dialogue and towards the achievement of an understanding of common values close to the hearts of all people, as well as respect for the belief of those belonging to other religious traditions. We welcome the signing of documents which reflect these goals, such as, for example, the joint declaration of Pope Francis and the Grand Imam Al-Azhar Sheikh Ahmed Al-Tabib, entitled Human Fraternity for World Peace and Living Together in February 2019. And we also welcome the signing of a joint statement by Pope Francis and His Holiness Patriarch Kirill in February of 2016. We share the premise that there's a need for an understanding by states and religious leaders of the exceptional significance of work for the achievement of interethnic, interfaith unity and fraternity, seeking ways to achieve dialogue and compromise to achieve a lasting and robust world order and prosperity. Confrontation always has an alternative. That alternative is mutually respectful dialogue geared towards resolving international frictions and creating an atmosphere conducive to peace and mutual understanding. Thank you for your attention.
مثل الاتحاد الروسي.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation for their statement.